Alright, I'm back everybody. Before we start, 2627-6001 FFF3C759. I'm pretty sure that's an anonymous Twitch name, but thank you for the follow. And Wave 1 out of 10, thank you for the follow as well. You guys are great. Alright. 1 second. Oh, that's pretty cool. Alright. We're not number 5. This is number 7, I believe. Yep. Okay. Well then, we're all here. My Streamlabs had to download like 1,000 files for an update. But let us continue the adventures. We completed episode 3. Now it's time for episode 4. Episode 4, The Adventure of the Clouded Kokoro.
I begin to think, Wilson, said Sholmes, turning his head languidly in my direction, that there is more to this case than that which we have observed. Indeed, that there may be another part to this story that we are yet to discover. His eyes wandered, following the steam rising from his cup of herbal tea, leading him to the distant memory of that snowy evening. To the young lady collapsed on the pavement along Briar Road, and to the knife in her back. Lit in the soft glow of gas lamps, a most extraordinary scene had been set. And under the cover of a light fog, the curtain had risen silently on the insoluble mystery of our invisible killer.
February 19th, 9:47 a.m. British Supreme Court Lord Chief Justice's office. Did you sleep last night, Mr. Naruhodo? No, not at all. It was an enormous hotel, wasn't it? The rooms were so luxurious, I felt like we were staying in a palace. And with all the gas lights twinkling, it was brighter than day even in the middle of night. What about the enormous beds? After my time on the SS Buria, I wasn't going to waste a single inch of that space. I spent the entire night rolling from one side of the mattress to the other. Oh yes, it really was the sort of night you could only dream of normally. Except, when I learned that we owed £3 for the room, that dream quickly turned into a nightmare. Oops, sorry about that. The building was so impressive and the entrance so inviting, I just wandered in without thinking. In a lodging house in Japan, that sum of money would put a roof over your head for a whole year. I did try, but I'm afraid I couldn't help my tears when we were presented with the bill. I really am sorry. Well, never mind. We must find some more affordable lodging straight away, though. If we're not careful, our entire stipend will be used up in 10 days or less. London is a scary place. Ah, good morning to you at this early hour. Oh, yes, well... Good morning to you, Lord Chief Justice. We have come to report on the outcome of the trial at the Old Bailey yesterday. Sato-san is amazing. She doesn't even bat an eyelid, even in the presence of the imposing Lord Strongheart. Yes, I believe you have a very comprehensive initiation into British courtroom practices. Oh, yes, it was very eye-opening, thank you. And in accordance with your instructions, Lord Strongheart, Mr. Naruhodo performed his duty to the end. Yes, I've already been apprised of events. You conducted a remarkable defense. You may consider the test passed. Oh? No longer are you a student from the Empire of Japan. You may henceforth claim to be a fully fledged lawyer. My country is delighted to welcome young talent from such a remote eastern island. Thank you very much. So I'm a lawyer now. Now, in view of your new appointment, I have a fresh case in mind for you. I'd like you to take it on at once. I trust that won't be a problem. Another case? Already? Nothing trains a lawyer better than practical experience. I'm sure. I don't sense dissatisfaction, do I? It's just that yesterday's trial ended unusually. I haven't quite come to terms with it. What's to come to terms with? The man was cleared. What more were you hoping for? The culpability of the defendant has not, at present time, been established by this court. Consequently, the jury will not be required to prefer judgment. Well, Lord Van Zeeks, it's been a pleasure, Sotaz. As for you, my dear fella, I couldn't have asked for a better defense. I just can't help wondering if Mr. McGilded really was innocent. Mr. Naruhodo, it's just that I never managed to ascertain the truth. And then the trial ended. Well, you needn't let it trouble you for a second longer. Sorry? What do you mean, Lord Strongheart? Magnus McGilded passed away immediately following the trial. No! What? Mr. McGilded is dead? I have 19 minutes and 41 seconds until my next engagement. Time enough to talk. I don't understand. What happened? How can he be dead? After the trial concluded yesterday, there was a great commotion in the Old Bailey. As you presumably recall, an omnibus had been wheeled into the courtroom. Yes, of course. That was the scene of the crime which Mr. McGilded had been accused of. Precisely. Well, while the bailiff's attention was diverted by some other matter, the omnibus went up in flames. No. How could such a thing have happened? That is being investigated as we speak, but already the police have identified a corpse found inside the charred shell of the carriage as that of McGilded. That's awful. The man must have slipped inside whilst the bailiff's attention was elsewhere. That bailiff really needs to pay more attention. How could that have happened? That is also being investigated as we speak. Thinking back now, immediately after the trial, Mr. McGilded did mention going back into the courtroom to look at the omnibus. Well, I must be making tracks now. 'Tis time for the inspection. Sorry, what inspection? They're going to examine the omnibus again, so I'm told. I'm asked if I could be present for it myself. An inspection of the omnibus? Not to my knowledge. I don't believe Scotland Yard had any intention of re-examining the carriage. But then who was Mr. McGilded talking about? Never mind that now. The Yard is making a thorough investigation. This matter is no longer any concern of yours. Leave it to the police. Poor Mr. McGilded. So, how did you find your first taste of our country's Supreme Court? Oh, well, I don't know. I mean, it was... wow. Mr. Naruhodo means that the whole experience was steeped into the solemnity of Great Britain's long history. It's really a world apart from our own judicial system in Japan, which is only a few short decades old. Wow, Susato-san has such a way with words. And you seem to have a way of failing to find the right ones. The judicial system here is the most advanced in the world. Learn all you can. The most advanced in the world, is it? It was fortunate that your very first trial was a simple affair. Simple? That was simple? As I believe I mentioned yesterday morning, it was a trial you couldn't lose. I don't mean to be contrary, Lord Strongheart, but the case was anything but simple. The circumstances of the case were so incriminating, I was stunned when I first heard them. In fact, I'm finding it hard to believe that we managed to even get a favorable verdict. Is something funny? No, my apologies. However, the fact is that you did receive the not guilty verdict you set out to achieve. And that can only be attributed to exceptional talent, wouldn't you agree? Well, I don't know about that. Well, never mind. You exceeded my expectations, I freely admit. That much, at least, is an undeniable truth. Which is precisely why I prepared the new case for you that I mentioned before. What's going on? What was he going to say before? Could you perhaps give us some more details about the new case you mentioned? Don't tell me it's a murder, and the trial starts at 10 minutes. Don't worry, it is nothing so alarming or quite so urgent as your last assessment. In fact, this case is completely different. Oh, I see. Did he just read my mind? That is to say, no one has died, as yet. And the trial will not be today. There's plenty of time to research the case thoroughly. 23 hours, 43 minutes, and 19 seconds to be precise. Ha! So the trial's tomorrow then. Is everything alright? Oh, yes, I'm just a little confused, that's all. Yesterday's trial was... well, it left me wondering if I'm really cut out for being a lawyer. Oh, Mr. Naruhodo. I don't recall if I could face standing in that courtroom again after McGilda's trial. Ah yes, I nearly forgot. There is one similarity with yesterday's case. Once again, there is currently no one to advocate for the defense. Oh? If the situation remains unchanged, the trial will start tomorrow with the defendant unrepresented. And if that happens, I need not remind you of the inevitable outcome. The most terrible end awaits the defendant. Yes, that's right. Here we go again. Hello, cat lover. Your time is up. You will have to excuse me. I would advise you to begin making preparations for tomorrow's trial. After all, the clock is ever ticking. There's now but 23 hours, 26 minutes, and 39 seconds until court sits. Last time he mentioned the 23 hours, he said there was plenty of time. And one more thing, Mr. Naruto. There is something I should like to ask you. Oh, what's that? Yesterday, you remarked upon something. That you intend to see through the will of your late compatriot, Mr. Asogi. I would be interested to hear what exactly you mean by that. Inside 34 seconds. Oh, well, Kazuma always used to say, you see, that he wanted to learn about the great justice system and then the world worked, so he could change hours in Japan. Now that he's gone, I'd like to work towards that myself. And there's another thing. Oh? Another thing. Continue. On the way here on the steamship, he said that he said something to me. There's something very important that I have to do. Something very important? And what exactly would that be? He never had a chance to tell me. I suppose he would have if he'd ever made it to Great Britain. You're out of time. Well, thank you for an enlightening discussion. Mr. Naruhodo, what's all this about? Mr. Soki never once mentioned anything of the sort to me. I urge you both to focus your attentions on the matter at hand. I have taken the liberty of summoning the police inspector in charge of the case. He'll be able to apprise you of the details. How long has he been there? So, I wish you the best of luck, and bid you farewell. Mew. There's something very important that I have to do. Kazuma-sama, what did you mean? I wish I knew, but honestly, he never told me. Anyway, we had better go talk to the detective, don't you think? Yes, you're right. I hope I'm just imagining it, but I wouldn't say he looks pleased to see us at all. Could we trouble you? What do you think? Lovely weather, isn't it? What's the weather got to do with anything? Listen to me, you young Japanese upstart. Some flippy about the weather doesn't get every English gent eaten out of your hand, you know. But Susato-san told me it was foolproof. I'm a busy man, a very busy man. There's a crime scene to investigate, but I'm here having to give the likes of you a talking to. Oh, I'm ever so sorry. Can you imagine what the other officers there will be saying, Haven't seen Gregson anywhere, have you? No, he's too busy with the bigwigs these days. And all because of some bumpkin who's here on a jaunt from a country I've never even heard of. Here's that ripping sound. That's my reputation at the yard going to tatters. There's no need to rip us apart as well. I don't believe we've been introduced. This is Mr. Ryunosuke Naruhodo, a defense lawyer. Eh? It is a pleasure to make your acquaintance. I'm Mr. Naruhodo's judicial assistant, Eh? It's lovely weather we're having today, isn't it? It is unseasonably fine, I grant you. London's winters don't see a lot of sunshine. Unbelievable! How'd she pull that off? So, Lord Strongheart asked me to fill you in on the case. The name's Tobias Gregson. Inspector Gregson to you. I'm from Scotland Yard. Gregson? Inspector Gregson? What's the matter with Susato-san? Does this detective's name mean something to her? Inspector, are you perhaps the Inspector Gregson? You're acting like you know this man, Miss Susato, but he's a London detective. Oh, I do know him. Very well, in fact. Very well. Yes, he's featured prominently in the adventures of Herlock Sholmes. Oh, in that publication. What's it called again? Randit's Magazine? That's right. Inspector Gregson and Mr. Sholmes enjoy a wonderful, friendly rivalry. Really? You rival the great Mr. Sholmes? That's incredible. Oh, well, I don't know about that. Mr. Sholmes isn't a professional like myself, of course, but he does come up with the goods from time to time. Mr. Sholmes is equally complimentary about you, Inspector, isn't he? You've earned his highest praise. Gregson is the pick of a bad lot of all Scotland Yarders. Those were his own words. That's his highest praise? Well, Mr. Sholmes isn't particularly known for giving compliments, you see. That he is not, and thanks to that magazine, my name's all over London town now. That's great, isn't it? I have to admit that to start with, I was a little, well, flattered by all the attention. Everyone wanted to shake my hand, and my reputation at the yard went through the roof. Well, that's wonderful. No, it is not! There's nothing more sinister than the man on the street. People are always looking at me now. They're whispering rumors about me under their breath, I'm sure. Rumors? Are you quite sure? He's changed since he started appearing in those stories. The fame's gone to his head, stuff like that. Gosh, do you really think people are saying such mean-spirited things about you? Like I said, they whisper, so I can't catch exactly what they're saying, but I know what folk are like. I'm sure that's what they're saying. I'm sure it's eggs is eggs. I get the feeling this detective could be very hard work. Oh dear, perhaps a sudden rise to fame does change people. So, about the case that the Lord Chief Justice mentioned before. Nothing to tell, really. As far as we're concerned at the yard, it couldn't be simpler. Oh dear, that probably means that as far as we're concerned as lawyers, it couldn't be more complicated. I wish you were wrong about that, but I have a nasty feeling you're right. A young woman was walking along the pavement on Briar Road when she was stabbed from behind. Fortunately, it wasn't fatal, but she's laid up in the hospital unconscious. That's despicable. What sort of coward would attack the poor woman from behind? I suppose you would have finished whoever it was with a suicidal takedown, would you? That is neither here nor there, Mr. Naruto. Brace yourself, Ryunosuke, you've angered her now. Anyway, after something of a whirlwind investigation, the criminal was arrested. He barely had time for a cup of tea after the incident took place, to be honest. So, there must have been something left at the scene that led you directly to the culprit? Or perhaps a reliable witness who recognized the person in question. Let me stop you right there. You're wasting your time on this one. Sorry. There's nothing you can do. There's no way to help the bloke now. Why ever not? Simple. The prosecutor that's been assigned to the trial tomorrow is Lord Baroque Van Zeeks. No. Sounds like you've heard of him then. Oh yes, we are very familiar with Lord Van Zeeks. Believed to be the harbinger of death itself, the Reaper of the Bailey. Lord Baroque Van Zeeks, who we faced in court only yesterday. Mr. McGilded told us about him before the trial, didn't he? When Van Zeeks stands for the prosecution, they call the accused his sacrificial lambs. And in every single trial in which he's been the prosecutor, the accused has been damned. This Reaper of the Bailey nickname, I suppose he's earnest that because I guess he's earned that because he gets every defendant he advocates against is found guilty. Is that it? Well, if that's the case, we should inform you, Inspector, that in yesterday's trial against Lord Van Zeeks, Mr. Naruto secured a verdict of not guilty. Ha! And what of it? Well, I think that means that even against the Reaper of the Bailey, it's not impossible to save the defendant. No, you really don't have a clue, do you? What do you mean? What happened to that bloke in the end, eh? He's dead. Ah. Magnus McGilded came a cropper in that omnibus when it went up in flames. So you can't rightly say you saved the defendant, can you? What are you saying? Look, if Van Zeeks could get the dirt to stick on everyone, he'd be a miracle worker. But that's not how it goes. He doesn't work miracles, he works magic. Black magic. I'd have a good long think about that if I were you. Are we really supposed to believe that? Right, well, I filled you in on as requested, and I'm very nearly out of chips. So I'll be heading back to the crime scene now. We're still carrying in a few investigations there. It was Briar Road, you said, didn't you? where the incident took place? That's correct, ma'am. And if you head over to the holding cells, you can meet the criminal himself. You branded him a criminal already? He's as good as, shaking like a leaf in his cell he is. It'll give you a chuckle if nothing else. He's inmate 53. Speak to the jailer and he'll show you the way. Inmate 53? Thank you. So there's no helping anyone against the Reaper of the Bailey, they say. Is something troubling you, Mr. Naruto? To tell the truth, when I recall the trial yesterday, I can't stop myself from shaking. The idea of facing the Reaper in court again is... Well, if you think it's too much for you, there's no shame in turning the case down. That takes courage, too. But if the man they've arrested is innocent, you could well imagine he would be shaking like a leaf in his cell. And I, for one, wouldn't find the sight of that funny. So, if I'm honest, I'm still reeling from the shock of yesterday's events myself. And I'm really not sure if I'll be able to help this man, whoever he is. But I'd like to try. So I think I'm going to make some inquiries. Will you help? Did you really think you had to ask? After all, I'm your judicial assistant. Thank you. So then, shall we? Yes, let's go. We move in now. So, let's go have a chat. February 19th, local prison, cell 9. So these are the British prison cells. Oh, they're ghastly. It feels like a dungeon. Yes, and having experienced it in Japan myself, I can assure you that our wooden cells feel a lot cozier than these cold stone walls. Oh, don't, Mr. Naruto. You're making it seem worse. Apparently, our client is in this cell here, but it's so dark at the back there I can't make him out. I wonder what he's like. Inmate 53, your legal representative is here to see you. Stop idling in the back of the cell and show your face at once. Am I? Am I a cat? As yet with no name. Calling me by a number, it's utterly unbelievable. Unjustly unreasonable. I refuse to answer. Mr. Naruto, what do you think is going on here? I have no idea. But I wasn't just hearing things, was I? That trade of complaints was in Japanese. Excuse me, but who? Shh, quiet. They're all around, hiding. I know they are. They're watching, listening. Even now. I can sense it. Right. So, can I ask you who is... There you are! They have come to cuss me, haven't you? Don't try to hide it. You're a ghost. A ghost? We mean you no harm, prisoner-san. Are you Japanese by any chance? This is beyond my wildest dreams! Forgive me for that outburst before. I am so sorry. Oh, it's fine. We were just a little surprised, that's all. Imagine it! It's been 12 long months since I left my hometown, and here I am in a frightful fix in a foreign land. So hearing the sweet, sentimental tones of my compatriot's voice here in this damp, dark hellhole was a most monumentally moving moment. Could have guessed that this new client Lord Strongheart had assigned to us would turn out to be a fellow Japanese. Ah, what compassion my fellow countrymen show. To dispatch a first-class lawyer all the way from Japan to defend a mere foreign student. Noble, nurturing, never failing Nippon. A first-class lawyer? Oh dear, I think there's been some sort of misunderstanding here. I wonder, would you be so kind as to tell us what happened? Why you've been detained as a suspect, for example? Yes, I can. I will. Shan't, stay, sullen, and silent. I'm not quite sure I understand what he means, but seems happy. Yes, he does. I just hope he actually has a good reason to be. Thank you for your cooperation. I'm a lawyer, as you said. My name is Ryunosuke Naruhodo. And I am Naruhodo-san's judicial assistant, Susato Mikitoba. I am a visiting student sent here by our government. Notoriously named Natsume Soseki Natsume. Soseki Natsume-san? What an unusual name. Call me Soseki, please. I'm a poet, you see. I'm a writer of haiku. It's something of a nom de plume. A nom de plume? You mean an alias? That's right, Naruhodo-san. No! Don't be so prosaic! It's much more refined than that. And haiku. That really reminds me of home. Did I hear you say that you were a visiting student sent here by our government? Yes, that's right. A year ago, I was told to go and study English. First, I had to suffer that misery, and now this. It's beyond the pale! Suffer that misery? Did you not want to study here? No, I mean, I've had an interest in Great Britain for some years, of course. Oh? But just because the government tells you to do something doesn't mean you can do it. No. What do you mean? If they told me to study English literature that I could have understood, that's my field. But no, they told me to study the English language. Utterly, unbelievably, unjustly, unreasonable! I see. Only the other day I was told to send a report about my first year here. I tended a blank piece of paper. Wise words on white washi! You must be a man of great standing. Oh, yes. So I'm often told. And often like to be told, it seems. Could you perhaps tell us exactly why you've been arrested, Soseki-san? I didn't do it! I didn't commit that atrocious murder! Murder? Oh, no. It's alright. The woman didn't actually die, did she? But she was stabbed with a knife right before my eyes! Before your eyes? You mean you saw the attacker? I didn't see anyone. What? If I had seen the person who did it, you think I'd be locked up in here? Oh dear, it seems this case is becoming rather complicated. Why me? Why me? Why did that silly woman have to be stabbed in front of me? It's a curse! The curse of London, it's incredibly, inexcusably, irritatingly inconvenient! So Soseki-san was there at the scene, but he didn't see the attacker. It's vital that we find out more about the case. It was an accursed evening, just after the snow had started to clear with the heavy fog. I had been at the bookshop to buy some books, and I was on my way back to my accursed lodgings. Sure, the bookshop wasn't accursed too. As I was walking along that accursed pavement, I could make out the sole silhouette of another ahead of me. A woman, wearing a green overcoat she was. And just as I went to overtake her, she suddenly let out a scream and collapsed under the cold hard slabs of the stone at my feet. How terrible. I called out to the woman, but she didn't move. It was like a ghostly, ghoulish, grim graveyard. Slight exaggeration there, perhaps? I was terrified. I had to get away from there. So I ran as fast as my legs would carry me back to my accursed lodgings. That's not good. They'll say it was shameful, I know, to run away like that. Tell me, Sosuke-san, was the victim an acquaintance of yours? Don't be ridiculous! Do you think I know of any of these fine-haired English? And a young woman at that? I'm diffident, shy, timid, unsure. I can't talk to people! I see. A young woman unknown to Sosuke-san. And at the time it happened, who else did you see nearby? Did anyone pass you? Regrettably, apart from myself and the woman, I didn't see a soul. No one? Oh, great. So the victim was unknown to you, and there was nobody else on the street at the time? That creates something of a conundrum, doesn't it? What conundrum? What do you mean, Susato-san? What's the conundrum? Well, if what Soki-san said has told us is true, there's something I can't explain. He says he didn't know the victim and that there was no one else at the scene. Then he apparently fled without having been seen. I did. But if that's the case, surely this man has to be the culprit. Ah! You! What did you just say? Nothing. I didn't say anything. Oops, perhaps I thought a little too loudly. Actually, that's not what's troubling me. What I was thinking was, how did Sosuke-san actually come to be arrested? Sorry? If he didn't touch the victim and there's nobody at the scene to see him, how did the police ever discover that he was there in the first place? Oh yes, she's right. It was him. That accursed great detective. He led the police to me. Of all the bad luck. Accursed great detective? Could it be? I shall never forget that man's name as long as I live. With his haughty laugh and his self-proclaimed greatness. Brash, big-headed, busybody, be gone! May you be cursed until the end of your days, Herlock Sholmes! I knew it! Mr. Sholmes? Well, I didn't expect to hear that name from this man's lips, that's for sure. It was the morning after the nightmare had unfolded on the pavement before me. I was gnawing at a sliver of hard cheese when some men suddenly burst through the door. They started shouting at me, "This is the police! Put the weapon down!" Yet it was a tiny silver, and yes, it was hard, but I wasn't eating a weapon! Disgusting dietary discrimination devils! You clearly had a trying morning yesterday. And there he was in the middle of all the policemen, grinning like a Cheshire cat. That Herlock Sholmes! It's actually just Herlock Sholmes. He's English. I've found out since that he's a famous name in detection here in London. Yes, the great detective is really very well known. And his overly sharp mind manages to deduce my whereabouts, apparently. And he thinks I'm the knife-wielding madman, me, this weak, stooped kitten of a man. I wonder what great deduction process led him to his conclusion this time. Do you mean to say that Mr. Sholmes' deduction was the only reason the police arrested you? That would be really most unreasonable. Well, the thing is, I was thrown into a panic when they barged their way in. Of course you were. That's only natural. I was terrified and trembling, and they kept throwing question after question at me in impossible English. Friendish, fiendish, flammery! Well, we are in England. You can't really blame them for questioning you in English. Good point. But my mind went blank. I knew I had to answer, but I didn't know what to say. So I just kept repeating things like, yes I do, and I'm fine. The next thing I knew, I was in manacles. And before I knew it, I was thrown in here. Oh dear. I'm afraid that's hardly surprising. I'm fine. He's not fine now. Mr. Naruhodo Esquire. Oh, you can just call me Naruhodo. And when we're speaking English, a simple Mr. is more than enough. Oh, yes. Alright. Yes, they've really got to me. This country is poisoning my mind. But please, I beg you to defend me in court tomorrow. I can tell you that you can tell them what really happened. You'll do it, won't you? Well, why? Why is it so hard to say yes to me? Well, the thing is, I'm just a student like yourself on a study tour. A student. I have defended a case. Defended a case in the Old Bailey. Only one though. But at this moment in time, I really don't know what I'm supposed to believe in. I'm confused about what justice in this country even means. Oh, Naruhodo-san. I'm not even the foreign student who was supposed to be here. I'm sort of a locum lawyer, I suppose. But that armband, that's the mark of defense lawyer from our great empire. It's a keepsake from the man who should have been here. He was my best friend. A keepsake. I know exactly what they're saying about me. Oh, who do you mean? The lawyers, all the British defense lawyers. They won't defend me. Goodness, why? Why do you say that? For the same reason as you noted before. When it happened, there was only the victim and myself around, and I ran away from the scene of the crime. I'm not a fool. I know it looks as though I must be the culprit. It must be very hard for you, Soseki-san. And anyway, I am a student from overseas. I'm just a foreign nobody to them. Someone not to be trusted. I heard them openly laughing about me before. In my earshot, without any compunction at all. Any trial for this man would be a waste of time. And of course the foreigner did it. They even had the gall to say the man doesn't understand half of what he's being said anyway. That's awful. They're wrong! I've studied more English than half the policemen out there on the streets. I've traveled halfway around the world to learn about these people's country and its great history. But no one wants to listen to a man with a strange accent. They all hate me. So, at the very least, I'd like to entrust my fate to someone who can listen to me in my native tongue. You could do it, couldn't you? When I look into your eyes, I can see it. I can see what you've been through. Soseki-san, it's just that... Give me a little time, please. I'll do what I can for the time being. What do you mean? We shall investigate the case as thoroughly as possible. If we can find some clues, it will give us a much better chance, I'm sure. Oh, yes. Thank you. I'll be here, all alone, waiting for you. Locum student Mr. Naruhodo Esquire. We should be going then, Naruhodo-san. We have a case to prepare for. Alright. Let's go to Briar Road. February 19th, Briar Road. So this is where it happened. Briar Road. Ah! Look, Mr. Naruhodo. Look at that regulation metal helmet. It's unmistakable. The men of Scotland Yard are here. They're investigating as we speak. That is their job, you know. But Mr. Naruhodo, to see one with my own eyes. They're often depicted in the adventures of Sherlock Holmes, but I've never dreamt I'd ever come this close. It's a real Bobby's helmet. What? The helmet? Of course. I have to try one on one day. Well, I hope your Hattie dream comes true. What's the Japanese delegation doing here? Oh, Inspector Gregson. This isn't the tourist trail, and I'm fairly sure you're well aware. Yes, of course. We're here to investigate. So, you've been in the holding cells then? What'd you make of the criminal? He is not a criminal, as you put it, Inspector. He's a suspect. We'll see about that. You Japanese like to stick together, I suppose. Well, do what you will. It doesn't bother me. That bloke's in court tomorrow. Whatever happens, and the verdict's a foregone conclusion. Ugh, the stone cold air of rejection. Take heart. London at this time of year is full of stone cold air. That makes it worse somehow. Tell me about Scotland Yard, Inspector. Ever since I've read about it in the Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, I've been fascinated by the place. The Yard is the most sophisticated police and organization you'll find anywhere in the world, ma'am. Oh, and you know I've always dreamt of wearing a real Bobby's helmet. It does make them look the part, seeing that policeman there with his helmet on. You certainly get the sense that this man is You get the sense that this is a man who will take no nonsense in his duty of protecting the city. Oh yes, doesn't he look wonderful? Being a London Bobby is hard going, I can tell you. Oh really? First thing in the morning, you know what he does? Goes round the rouses all the laborers on his best so he can get off work. What? He wakes people up? Yep. Raps on their windows with a long pole. Did it myself, going back a bit. I had no idea. The Bobbies work for the people of the town. It's just another one of his duties. After that, he starts tirelessly patrolling the streets all day long. He has to cover 20 miles a day. That's the regulation distance. I can't really imagine how far that is, but it sounds like a long way. Let me see. 20 miles? That's approximately the distance from Tokyo to Yokohama. On foot? That's definitely taking things a step too far. And when it gets dark, of course, he has the important job of lighting all the gas street lamps. Oh my. And I suppose in between of all those duties, Bobbies are expected to investigate cases as well. And chase after criminals trying to evade the law. I'm not sure you could call it in between exactly. More alongside, but yes. They're expected to handle those jobs as well. We do have men keeling over from time to time, I admit. I'd always dreamt of wearing one of those helmets, as I said. But it's with a heavy heart that I shall have to relinquish that dream to you, Mr. Naruto. Your heavy heart will be the heavy head if you do. It happened at around 5 in the evening, 2 days ago, just there on the open bit of the pavement. The victim, a young woman, was stabbed with a blade from behind. Is that right that the lady is still unconscious now? You mentioned that she was being treated in the hospital. I never said she was a lady. Truth is, unless she comes around pretty smartish, we won't be able to find out much about her at all. I suppose that means they haven't been able to take a statement from her, of course. Here's a map of the local area I happen to have on me. You can take it if you want. Really? Are you sure? It's the Yard's policy to give lawyers, defendants, suspects the odd bits of information to go on. I haven't actually accepted the job yet, but still. Thank you, Inspector. We gratefully accept. A street map of the local area showing where the victim was found. Okay. Anyway, as far as we know, there was no one else at the scene other than the victim and your fellow countrymen. So who did it, do you think? Not much of a head scratcher, is it? Well, I know Mr. Natsume is also claiming to not have been seen anyone else around, but just because he didn't see anyone, it doesn't mean that we can't be sure that nobody else was present. I'm sorry to have to tell you, but the most certainly can be sure. How? Because, ma'am, the precise moment of the stabbing didn't go unnoticed. It what? We have two very reliable witnesses, no less. Ah. It was a typical foggy London day, and your client obviously didn't see them. There were witnesses now? Yeah, that's who she's supposed to be. Who are these witnesses, Inspector? A fellow and his wife. And the man's one of the most reliable and respected citizens of all of London. He's a copper from Scotland Yard. Ah! A policeman? That might change things. And this policeman just happened to be there at the exact moment the woman was attacked. Nothing peculiar about that, ma'am. Part and parcel of being a bobby, catching them banging the act and all that. Do you think it might be possible for us to ask that policeman a few questions? Be my guest. You can ask him what you like in court tomorrow. Oh, I've no doubt he'll be summoned as a witness, so that'll give you something to look forward to. That's that then. He's got no intention of letting us meet the man beforehand, it seems. A policeman witnessed the incident. As your judicial assistant, I must warn you this could make our job very difficult indeed. Yes, as a non-judicial assistant, I could have warned me of that too. Oh yes, one more thing, Inspector. What? The person who led you to the suspect, I hear that it was Mr. Herlock Sholmes. What are you bringing him up for? Was it something I said? The color is drained from his cheeks. Who did you hear that name from? Oh, well, it was Mr. Natsume who mentioned it. He said that Mr. Sholmes was with the police when they entered his lodgings. I'm sure it was a result of one of Mr. Sholmes' inspirational great deductions. Fiddle faddle! The man's an amateur, and I'm getting sick and tired of him showing his mug everywhere. Oh? I don't know where he gets his information from, but he turns up at the scene of the crime, wanders around spouting incomprehensible rubbish, and before you know it, he claims to have solved the case. Yes, he's quite astounding, isn't he? He is a great help to Scotland Yard, though, isn't he? Gibble gabble! Ever seen this before? Oh yes, that's Randit's magazine. The wonderful publication in which the adventures of Herlock Sholmes appears. Yes, well, that wonderful publication, as you put it, sees fit to include several of the Yard's detectives in its stories. And the so-called Great Detective makes a mockery of all of us. If you ask anyone at the Yard, a misadventure to be included in any Herlock Sholmes tale at all. Well, I suppose there's an element in that. We work our socks off, every one of us, only to be thumped by a public thanks to that obnoxious detective. The man's as dangerous to us as Scotland Yard as he is to all our criminals. That can't really be true, can it, Inspector? Clearly, the Great Detective and the police have a complex relationship. That twitchy Japanese bloke goes on trial tomorrow. Are you going to defend him or not? Well, make no difference to me, but I will say this. No London lawyers worth his salt would touch that case with a barge pole. Because the prosecution is being handled by the Reaper of the Bailey, you mean? There's no way to save the man now. It's a waste of time trying. It's all a bit strange, though. Sorry? The Reaper? He hasn't appeared in court once for a good few years now. Yes, we did hear something to that effect. And the only people he usually bothers with are the real scum, the master criminals, the violent ones. Master criminals? The violent ones? That's right. He handpicks his victims, only deals with those guaranteed to go to the gallows for their sins. But Mr. Natsume wouldn't hang for what he's accused of, surely. That's just my point, Sunshine. Yes, the young woman was stabbed, but it didn't kill her. couldn't even say the intent was there. So this isn't the sort of case I'd expect the Reaper to want to sink his teeth into, for what of a better phrase. Well, it's not exactly a minor infraction, is it? No, there's got to be more to it. Some reason he's taken an interest. Really? What sort of reason, Inspector? You think I can tell what's going on inside that head of the Lord of Darkness? You'll have to ask him yourself at tomorrow's trial. Are we really going to have to face the Reaper again? The Lord of Darkness, as he puts it? Well, I don't think we're going to get any more useful information out of the detective. Mr. Naruto, can I make a suggestion? Oh, what is it? Well, it seems to me that we must speak with him about this. By him, do you mean Mr. Sholmes? Yes, Mr. Herlock Sholmes, exactly. Look at those shining eyes. You can't wait, can you? Well, Mr. Natsume did blame Mr. Sholmes for all this, didn't he? Yes, he did. He really did. Which makes him an involved party in the case. Are you just going to ignore that? I hope not. I assure you, it's not simply my selfish desire to meet with Mr. Sholmes again. The trouble is, we have no idea of the man's address even. It's Baker Street. Now, how do you know that? It's in the stories, of course. 221B Baker Street, the most famous address in the world. Oh, I see. Well, there's nothing to stop us from going, I suppose. We better try to find our way there before Susato-san gets any more excited and unpredictable. Hurrah! I'll summon a carriage. So we're to have a reunion already with the great detective Mr. Herlock Sholmes. Yes, that's who they mean.
Thank you very much. It's just up there overlooking the street. Good day. Thanks again. This is it. The residence of Mr. Herlock Sholmes.
February 19th, 12:53 p.m., Sholmes Suite. So this is where the great detective makes his living. It feels surreal to be here somehow. It is as described in the stories, Miss Susato. Susato-san. Many famous cases have been solved here in this very room. Oh, I suppose they must have been, yes. I've never read the story, so it's hard to get quite as excited about it as she seems to be. The detective chases the villain relentlessly as he disappears into the fog down an unlit London street. Oh, the thrill of it, the romanticism. Can't you feel your heart thump in your chest? Can't you, Mr. Naruto? Oh, I suppose I can, yes. So, if you don't mind, I'll just stand here and soak up the atmosphere for a while longer. Please don't mind me. She's obsessed. Well, it looks like our detective friend isn't home at present. Excuse me, is anybody home? Oh, do we have a visitor? Hello, it's a big new case for Mr. Sholmes. Hello. Wait, aren't you... Oh, how rude of me. I'll go ahead and make tea at once. I'm sure it's the same girl. Mr. Sato, did you see the girl who was just here? Oh yes, isn't it truly extraordinary? To think that the King of Bohemia came to this very room to ask Mr. Sholmes to take on his case. The King of Bowaria? King Wilhelm Gottschalk Sigismund von Ormstein, of course. Sorry, I'm drawing a blank. Forget the adventure of Herlock Sholmes for a moment and look over there. The tea's brewed, and I have a freshly baked cake as well. It's you! I knew it! Susato-san recognizes her too. Ah, there you are! I'm taking that with you as well. I was looking forward to the trial run with my experimental smoke grenade launcher. Oh, good day to you. I'm, well, the inventor, I suppose, of that machine. It's the girl who turned up at the end of Mr. McGilda's trial in the defendant's antechamber. I've never met a lawyer from the Far East before. Poor you, having to get straight to work when you've only just arrived in London. Oh, yes, it was challenging. Well, try this tea. It's my special blend, you know. Oh, thank you. Is tea supposed to look that color? Oh my, what a fragrant yet mellow flavor. Hooray, it's a winner. I tried blending different leaves designed to alleviate fatigue, you see. You must be exhausted after your long voyage here, and you have another ticklish trial tomorrow. Oh, and you're to defend a Japanese man. I do wish you lots and lots of luck. Did Mr. Sholmes tell you about us by chance? Oh, you know Hurley, do you? Hurley? Mr. Sholmes to you, surely. Mr. Sholmes was a fellow passenger on the boat that brought us to Great Britain, you see. Was he really? Well, I had no idea. I'm afraid Hurley's out on an errand again today, even though he's just returned from overseas. Wait a minute. We met this girl for the first time yesterday after the trial, and only briefly at that. How on earth does she know so much about us? Did she deduce all those things, do you think? And perhaps more to the point, why is she here in Mr. Sholmes' suite? Oh, silly me, I haven't introduced myself, have I? It's a great pleasure to meet you both. My name is Iris Wilson. I live here together with Hurley. Ah, Iris, is it? What a lovely name. What? What's the matter? No, wait, this can't be. Your name is Wilson. What's the matter, Susato-san? What's the matter with Susato-san? Why is she flustered all of a sudden? Yes, that's right. And what are your names? Oh, I'm Ryunosuke Naruhodo, a lawyer from Japan. Oh, sorry. I'm Naruhodo's judicial assistant, Susato Mikitoba. It's wonderful to meet you. Lovely. Susie and Runo. Got it? Susie and Bruno. There's more to this girl than meets the eye. I have so many questions for her, I don't know where to start. Yes, so do I. It was you that we ran into yesterday, wasn't it? At the Old Bailey? Yes, that's right. You were ever so helpful. Thank you very much. Oh no, not at all. I'm so sorry we couldn't have been more welcoming. Though at the time we did have a rather large gun pointed at us. Like this. Ah, thinking back now, you left with Miss Lestrade in tow, didn't you? Oh yes, that awkward witness, Gina Lestrade. Oh, Ginny. Yes, she's a professional pickpocket. So we found out. It was very naughty of her to pinch my inventions like that. Are you referring to that trial-disrupting gun-like contraption? Exactly. So I followed her, you see, to get it back. Perhaps I should think about fitting a self-destruct mechanism in my inventions. This girl is dangerous. Anyway, I brought Ginny back here after that, so she could apologize to my trusty technician. Sorry, your technician. Hurley, of course, silly. Hurley? Yes, Herlock Sholmes. We live together here. I had no idea the great detective had such an interesting young daughter. Daughter? Not likely. What? I wouldn't call him Hurley if he was my father, would I? Well then, what is your relationship with Mr. Sholmes? Well, I expect you found out that lodging of any kind in London are very expensive. So the solution is to share the cost with a partner, a roommate. Your roommates? I hope you don't mind me asking, Iris, but how old are you? 10 at last this year. Well, what of your mother and father? Oh no, they're not around. Oh, I see. I wonder what the story is there. Oh yes, there is something I must ask you. Of course, go ahead, Susie. I'm a very great fan of The Adventure of Herlock Sholmes and... Oh, you have a copy of Rant's magazine? Yes, I've read every issue. It's delivered all the way to Japan on a ship. Oh, that is so exciting. My stories are being read on the other side of the world. My stories? That's right. Hurley is always solving such amazing cases, you see, and he tells me all about them. They really are quite fascinating. It would be a shame if I were the only one who ever heard them, don't you think? Goodness. Last night, he was telling me all about the new case he had just solved on a steamship traveling from a faraway land. So I was just in the middle of typing up the manuscript for the next issue before you came. So you're the author? Yes, I'll let you in on a secret if you like. I'm going to call this latest adventure The Speckled Band. The Speckled Band? That's certainly very familiar. Of course, I always change one or two details in the story, here and there. This time, I had the idea of making a venomous snake be the cause of all the trouble. Oh, that was Mr. Sholmes' first thoughts as well, actually. Yes, and of course, I know that a snake might not be a credible fit for the facts of the case exactly, but it's a story. Some poetic license is justified to make it more thrilling, I think, don't you? So, you mean to say... Are the stories about Mr. Sholmes that are published in Rant's magazine all written by me? Yes, on my wonderful and very modern typewriter. But what are all the stories I've ever read are written by a doctor of medicine, Dr. John H. Wilson. Sato-san's getting more and more worked up. Ah, yes, that's me. I mean, my name is Wilson. But what about the doctor of medicine part? That's all true, too. I am a doctor of medicine. No, at 10 years old? At 10 years old. Well, that's quite incredible. But, Dr. Wilson is an English gentleman. Ah, yes. I did alter the setting slightly for the stories to be more compelling. Well, it sounds a little strange, doesn't it? A great detective with a 10-year-old girl in tow. I suppose it does, yes. Poor Susato-san. She looks like her whole world is falling apart. About before. Yes, what is on your mind, Bruno? Do tell me. How did you know that I was a lawyer, and we had just arrived in London, I mean? Yes. Oh, and that we have a difficult trial tomorrow. How did you know of all that? Oh, that's what you mean. Please, tell us how you did. Explain every detail. Of course, I'd be delighted, although there's really no mystery. Now, let's begin. Iris Wilson is proud to present her logic and reasoning spectacular. First of all, I knew already that you were a lawyer, Bruno. After all, I met you yesterday at the Old Bailey Defense Antechamber. but you also said that we'd only just arrived in London. How do you know that? I observed a passport and travel ticket protruding from your breast pocket. Oh. So I was reasonably confident that you must have just arrived in the country. And on top of that, you accepted a case against that particular prosecutor, telling me that you are unaware of London's court affairs. The Reaper of the Bailey? I walked right into that one, didn't I? And I noticed the red ink stamp on the back of Susie's hand. You were given that when you visited the local prison to meet with a suspect, weren't you, earlier today? They use those stamps to keep a close eye on comings and goings, you see. I didn't realize. And a red stamp that's only used for people visiting foreign inmates. So, that told me that even though you had only yesterday concluded the trial of Magnus McGilded, the two of you had already had cause to visit the foreign inmate at a local prison. However, neither of you was wearing a particularly sad expression on your face, so I concluded that the prisoner was unlikely to be a friend or a relative. That led me to believe that you must have accepted a new case. I see. But how can you know all that? How could you have known that the trial is tomorrow? Well, having barely been home a few hours yesterday, Hurley solved yet another case. It obviously amused him. He told me that he'd caught a Japanese man who was bawling and trembling. A Japanese man? Where clearly that must have been Mr. Natsume. Now Bruno has that fancy Japanese sword. And I think your outfit is called a kimono, isn't it, Susie? Well, anyway, it was clear to me that you both come from Japan yourselves, so I put two and two together and decided it must be that you must be defending the Japanese man Hurley caught. And there was only one conclusion those facts could lead me to. You both came here to ask Hurley about the case. There's a note on the mantelpiece that says the man's trial will be tomorrow. Hurley is always stabbing his notes with a knife, you know. He is silly. And that's all there was to it, really. Thank you for listening. I'm Iris Wilson, and that was one of my great deductions. Well, was it a winner? Were my deductions correct? They were spot on. That was amazing, Iris. Truly a great deduction. You even managed to discern something of Mr. Sholmes' delivery. Oh, well, I was just copying Hurley's style for that. That was very good news. You could tell us all about the case involving the Japanese man. You will, won't you, Iris? Please. So yesterday, Mr. Sholmes apprehended a Japanese man, you were saying? Yes. Hurley had just arrived back in London after his sea voyage, but the police were waiting for him at the railway station to take him directly to the crime scene. Ah, the great detective is a popular man, it seems. Apparently, a woman was stabbed on a quiet street somewhere in town. There were witnesses who had seen a short, shifty-looking stooped man running from the scene. A short, shifty-looking stooped man. Mr. Natsume, with it beyond any doubt. Sosuke-san said he didn't see anybody else in the street at all, but it seems there were witnesses after all. Hurley used his great detective powers to determine the man's address. It was a lodging room very nearby. He went directly there with the police, and what did they find? A short, shifty-looking stooped man shivering in fear. Ugh. Mr. Sholmes' great deduction certainly hit the mark that time. Of course it did. He's a great detective. Still, that means the incident occurred only 2 days ago. Surely tomorrow is too soon for the trial, isn't it? Definitely. We have no time to investigate properly. Hurley says that London is rife with crime. Oh. Scotland Yard is doing its best, but they can't stay on top of it, apparently. Oh dear. I hadn't realized the situation was so dire. That's why they can't afford to spend too much time investigating cases and trying the criminals in court. Staff and money are both short. Crimes are usually pinned on the first suspicious person. That's terrible. I suppose it's the harsh reality of the workings of the world's greatest justice system. I suppose it is. But in that case, I don't hold out much hope for Soseki-san. Thank you for answering so many of our questions, Iris. This has been very informative. Oh, you're most welcome. I've had so much fun. Do you happen to know where Mr. Sholmes is at the moment? As you'd guess, we'd like to ask him some questions about the case as well. Ah, well, I'd expect Hurley is still investigating the scene. Of the case involving Mr. Natsume, you mean? Yes, Mr. Nuts, May. Hurley said he was going to be at the man's lodgings. If you leave now, you'd probably catch him there. Iris, do you know where those lodgings are? Well, I'd imagine the police are still investigating the scene of the crime themselves, aren't they? Do you happen to come across a detective by the name of Gregson when you were there? Yes, we know of Inspector Gregson. Ah, goody. In that case, give Gregsy this for me, will you? If you tell you what you want to know. What is this? A 5-shilling piece and a postcard, it seems. Iris's postcard, a card for Inspector Gregson with a message on the back from Iris. It reads, "Tell the gentleman in black whatever he wants to know. I trust that that won't be a problem." Gosh, so this will make the inspector help us, will it? Well, thank you, Iris. We'll give it a try. Good luck, then. I'm going to return to writing my manuscript, The Speckled Band. And I'll be making more special blends of tea, so come back again soon. We'd be delighted. Thank you so much, Iris. Well, Mr. Naruto, it's back to the scene of the crime. So somewhat dubious that they would exert any influence over the men of Scotland Yard at all. We headed back to the scene with Iris's curious note and one of the world's heaviest silver coins in hand. The trial hasn't started yet, so we're gonna keep going. Plus, it's only been an hour. February 19th, 2:38 p.m., Briar Road. Looks as though the police are still here, carrying on with their investigation. Perfect. So let's find Inspector Gregson as quickly as possible. Yes, and let's see if he'll take a break from his chips to look at the silver tip Iris gave us for him. Inspector Gregson, do you have a moment? I'm sorry to say I don't. I'm a very busy man. Too busy to talk with a pair of foreign goat-abouts, that's for sure. We have these for you. A present from Miss Iris Wilson. What? For me? From her ladyship? Her ladyship? Give that here, at once. Come on, hand it over. That's for me. Ah, don't wait for me to give it to you, will you? What was that coin exactly? It's a silver crown, obviously, but it's a lot more than that. It's, well, it's an appearance fee. That's what it is. An appearance fee? Oh, I see. You mean... That's right, for the adventures of Herlock Sholmes. Her ladyship always offers me a little financial reward for featuring me, every time. Yes, yes, of course. I know all about your exploits, Inspector. I read them avidly. Of course, her using my name without my say so does make me the butt of a lot of unpleasant jokes, but still. I'm sorry, Inspector. That must be difficult for you. Never you mind that. So, what is it you want to know then, eh? Sorry? Tell the gentleman in black whatever he wants to know. I trust that won't be a problem, it says. Well, obviously, it's not a problem. Go, fire away. What do you want to know? Well, if you wouldn't mind, Inspector, we would very much like to know the address of Mr. Natsume's lodgings. Ah, the little knife-wielding, mustached Japanese fellow. He lives in a right old hovel. Just look over there. On the first floor of the house in the corner where that wreck of a bicycle popped up. That is nearby indeed. If I remember rightly, the landlord is a Mr. John Garadeb. Right, well, if you see her again, you make sure to give her ladyship my regards, you hear? I mean it. You tell her that Gregson sends his very best wishes. Don't worry, Inspector, we will. Goodbye for now, then. And long live her ladyship. Well, at least he told us what we wanted to know before he left. Yes, so then, shall we go see what we can find in Mr. Natsume's lodgings? Definitely. Oh boy. February 19th, Mr. Natsume's lodgings. May I help you? Yes, would this be the residence of Mr. John Garadeb? Indeed it would be, sir. And who may I say is calling? My name is Ryunosuke Naruhodo. Mr. Naruhodo is representing Mr. Soseki Natsume. I believe he takes lodgings here. We would very much like to ask him some questions about our client. One moment, please. I shall convey the message to Mr. Garadeb. Did you see that, Miss Susato? That was a real-life English maid. I know. As I understand it, anyone of standing in English society employs a number of household staff. But that was the first time I've ever seen one in the flesh. Oh, this day keeps getting better. It certainly feels like we really arrived now, doesn't it? We only need to meet a butler, and the experience will be complete. Well, I'm not sure if I'd go that far, but I understand the sentiment. Thank you for waiting. Mr. Garadeb will see you now. This way. Good day to you. John Garadeb at your service. Pleased to meet you, sir. This is Ryunosuke Naruhodo. He is a defense lawyer. Do excuse me not getting up. Took a shot to the knee a few years back in the Battle of Mawand, don't you know? Earned a medal for my pains, but had to withdraw from the service. Handed over the reins to the up-and-comings. So he's a retired soldier. It's a hell of a job getting up and down the stairs now, I can tell you. Don't get out much, as you can imagine. Yes, it's quite a climb here to the second floor, isn't it? I was panting at the top of the stairs. You really must take more exercise, Mr. Naruhodo. Do you think so? Well, Mr. Garadeb, no doubt you were very courageous to earn yourself a medal. Oh, it was nothing. The medal's just folderol, really. Wouldn't like to offend the general, though, so I grudgingly displayed it on the wall. Why don't you fetch it down, Joan? Why don't you fetch it down, Joan? Let these good people see it properly. Joan, fetch the... Ah! Dash it all, woman! Be careful! Oh, dearie me, I do beg your pardon, sir. You jolly nearly took the skin off my hands. I shall be more careful, sir. So anyway, there you have it. Living the quiet life now. Yes, I see. Now then, I hear you want to know about the chap's lodging downstairs, is that right? Yes, we would be very grateful if you could answer some questions for us. Only two, please. Naturally, especially if it helps keep the peace here in Blightly. We forged an alliance with the Empire of Japan recently, as I'm sure you're aware. So this case is very much in the public eye, as it were. Oh, it is? Even had some famous detective poking around, you know. In this old house, would you believe? Yes, Mr. Herlock Sholmes. Could have been. Didn't catch the chap's name. Not really my cup of tea, all that detective business.
Oh, but you have a copy of Rant's magazine here, so...
No,
Anyway, the chap's investigating the foreigner's room as we speak.
So he's in Soseki-san's room? It's a bally nuisance, is what it is. The whole neighborhood's twitching in curtains now. I don't like all this fuss. It's jolly unsettling.
About Mr. Natsume then, Mr. Garrideb, please do tell us.
Ah yes, the Japanese chap. Only been lodging here for a week.
Only just 1 week?
So he moved in very recently then. I have 2 lodgers most of the time, one on the ground floor and one just below us. The first floor room became available a week ago. You see that? Ah! Dash it all, Joan! Do be careful!
Oh, my goodness. I'm terribly sorry, sir. If you want to know my opinion, I thought he was a shady sort of the moment I set eyes on him. Oh? Why? He seemed to have the most nervous disposition, always shaking and looking over his shoulder. The man had shady written all across his sweaty-soaked brow, if you ask me. I said to myself, Joan, that man is trouble. Sooner or later he's going to do something untoward. And I'm rarely wrong about anything.
We won't be calling this maid as a witness, that's for sure.
Was there anything else that struck you suspicious about the man at all? Yes, oh yes, indeed there was.
And she's dying to tell us. Had you noticed anything else about your lodger, Mr. Natsume?
Oh my word, yes. The man was shadier than an orchard. Could you elaborate? Well, take the man's room. Absolutely stuffed full of books it is. More than anyone could ever read. And he's never so much as passes the time of day with another living soul. I haven't seen a single visitor call. He just trots off to that old bookshop every single day and comes back at 5 to light the gas fire. And the funny little man is up long past the time everyone else in the house has gone to bed too.
Oh, I see.
The gentleman on the ground floor goes to bed at around 9 each night. But I've never known that Japanese fellow to retire any earlier than 2 in the morning.
Ah.
Could you clarify something, I wonder? What, pray? How do you know so much about Mr. Natsume's routine? Oh! I understood that neither of the lodgers live on this floor of the house. Is that correct?
That's right. They both below us, on the first floor, then street level.
Then, how is that you know so much about the lives of your lodgers? The precise times that they come back in the evening, for example, even the times they go to bed.
Ah! Good grief, Joan! Be more careful, woman!
Oh, my goodness, sir. I'm terribly sorry, sir.
Something doesn't add up here. It seems that the incident took place around 5 in the evening. Did you happen to look out of the window at around that time? The window.
Yes, we noticed that the window over there looks out over Briar Road. The incident took place on the pavement just on the far side of the street. Was there anyone suspicious loitering nearby?
5 o'clock is dinner time in the Garrideb household, so I'm afraid I don't remember seeing anything. How about you, Joan?
No, sir. It would have been dusk outside already at this hour. And with the fog as well, I should think it would have been quite impossible to see the other side of the road.
Oh, I see.
Did you notice anything else out of the ordinary then?
Such as?
Anything at all, even if it seems unrelated.
Well...
Yes? Was there something then? Well, it's nothing particularly significant, but around that sort of time in here... Ah! For the love of God, Joan, watch what you're doing. Oh, dearie me, what have I done? I'm awfully sorry, sir. Do be more careful, woman. Of course, sir. If I may, Mr. Narrow Hollow. Oh, yes. I have an exceedingly good memory, and as far as I remember, nothing of any significance took place here at this hour. Nothing at all. Oh, really? Mr. Garrideb? The way you were talking before, it sounded rather like there might have been. Oh, well, as I was saying, it was just a trifling matter, really. Nothing of— Ah! Joan, dash it all! What is the matter with you, woman? Begging your pardon, sir. Nothing happened. Yes, quite. Nothing happened. We sat down to a quiet, uneventful meal. Joan? That's right, Mr. Garrideb. What is the matter with these two? It sounds like something happened in this room on the evening of the incident, but what? I wish I knew. Could you tell us which floor Mr. Natsume's room is on? Well, certainly just below on the first floor. And Mr. Sholmes is investigating there even as we speak. Yes, told me Nats's name, had asked him to look into the matter, so I gave him the key. Mr. Natsume has engaged Mr. Sholmes' services. That's a blatant lie. Would it be alright if we would also have a look around? In Mr. Natsume's room, I mean. Don't see why not. It's just down one flight of stairs. Who knows if we'll find anything that can help us with the case, but we have to try. We need all the clues we can lay our hands on, shall we? Yes, and while we're there, we can speak with Mr. Sholmes again. Perhaps he'll be able to tell us more. Alright. February 19th, Mr. Natsume's room. What? Just look at this place. And smell it. It's so musty in here. I suppose the mountains of old books are all responsible for that. I don't think I've ever seen so many books in all my life. No, me neither. It's so dark in here, too. Is that the window over there? Well, it was the window, I think, yes, once upon a time. But for some reason, it's been closed up with bricks and mortar. So this is where Mr. Natsume lives. By the way, I haven't spotted Mr. Sholmes anywhere, have you? No, that's true, but according with what Mr. Garrideb told us, the great detective should be around here somewhere. Oh my, what an adorable little cat. Perhaps they're looking after the books while his master is away. I don't know about that. He disappeared into a pile of books as quick as a flash. It was a tricolor Meki, was it? Do they even have that sort of cat here in Great Britain? Perhaps Mr. Natsume brought the little creature with him from Japan. That made me feel homesick now. Already, we've only been in the country for 2 days. Let's see. That appears to be some sort of meter on the wall here. It looks very robust. I wonder what it's for. There's a slot for inserting coins here, too. Ah, I believe that's the gas meter, Mr. Naruto-san. A gas meter? Yes, it seems there's a pipe gas in this district, which consumers pay by putting coins in the meter. So, if you were to put a coin in the slot... There'd never be enough gas to use the lights and the gas for a whole night. So, if you're too poor to have coin, you'd have to spend the night in the dark and freezing cold? That's right. As a rich man who only carried crisp white notes. Brr, London is a scary place. That desk seems to be wedged in the crevice between the mountains of books on either side. I suppose Mr. Natsume would sit there and read while stroking his cat. But surrounded on all sides by these towering old tombs, surely he dreamt of books every night as well. Yes, he must have done, mustn't he? Oh, what's this? It's a receipt from a second-hand bookshop. Your books. Oh yes, Mr. Natsume's name is on it, look. And the date of the purchase. 2 days ago at 4:45 p.m. That's the day of the incident. It's just a short while before he was embroiled in the terrible attack. He must have been on his way back from buying some old books. A receipt discovered in Mr. Natsume's room for some books that he had purchased from a second-hand bookshop before the incident occurred. Wonder if I can look at that. The sum of 2 shillings, tender rupees, picture of Moscow, Leah, the meal, Canterbury earnings. Okay. Could you even call this a window? I think so. It was a window at one time, after all. Although all that remains is a frame around some bricks now. So really, it's just a wall then, isn't it? But why would anyone deliberately brick it up like that? I'm afraid I have no idea. Ah! Perhaps Mr. Natsume painted the brick design on a fit of whimsy. That's alarmingly feasible. Anyway, whatever the reason, the lack of ventilation here makes this place very oppressive. It does. I imagine being cooped up here in a room like this would be extremely trying. Look at all those books stacked up there. They almost reach the ceiling. They're all works of English literature, and they all smell so musty. With this volume of books to hand, you'd never be short of reading material, would you? No, what a dreamy idea. A bad dream, maybe, for me at least. Mind you, I don't imagine the book that's at the bottom of the pile right now will ever be read again. Ah, so reading is an experience that comes but once in a lifetime, just as the tea ceremony teaches us. I certainly didn't expect the conversation to turn down the path of tea ceremony philosophy. Oh look, it's a beckoning cat from home. It's a bit big and bulky, isn't it? Surely Mr. Natsume didn't bring that Maneki Neko all the way from Japan with him. I hardly think you're in a position to comment, Mr. Naruhodo. Are you forgetting the enormous Dorama doll that you brought in your luggage? Well, it can be dangerous traveling abroad. I want a lucky charm. Well, I imagine Mr. Natsume wanted the same, and this cat is sure beckoning good luck to him. It's not doing a very good job so far, is it? You mustn't say such things. I didn't say a word. Why are my eyes such a giveaway? I feel like I've examined everything here. Found a receipt. Also, yeah, what is up with this bike? A British bicycle. Look, Although the wheel is so misshapen, I'm sure it couldn't possibly be ridden anymore. Someone must have been doing some breakneck cycling. It seems bicycles have become extremely popular in London recently. There's even a movement to change women's dresses to allow them to ride as well. The bicycle fad won't last. I don't see why anyone would want to ride something like that. Goodness, do you dislike bicycles? No, not at all. I mean, it's not that I dislike them exactly. It's just that any occupation that involves taking both your feet firm off the ground seems reckless. If you'd ever tried walking on stilts and fallen into a river, I know you'd agree with me. We'll have to hire a bicycle sometimes. You can sit behind me while I ride you around. Hire a bicycle? Oh, look at the windows of that building there. Are you sure that they're windows? Yes, but they're all filled in with bricks. Oh, you're right. I wonder. Perhaps it's an empty property where nobody lives at the moment. There's smoke coming from the chimney, though. Oh dear, everything seems very foreign. There's so much things we have to learn about this place. That's one of the officers from the Scotland Yard. The police are making sure the crime scene is undisturbed. I have a feeling that if we wander too close, we'll be clapped in irons. I think perhaps we're being a little overcautious. We've done nothing wrong, so we have no cause for concern. Oh no, I'm not getting caught out again. Twice is enough. Twice I found myself in handcuffs despite not knowing a thing about what was going on. Yes, you've had some dreadful experiences. I'm sure that's wide-eyed look of panic that you're so prone to. It does you no favors at all. Ugh. Okay, so I was supposed to go back to the prison. Alright. It seems that we can't meet with Mr. Natsume at the moment. Oh. He's being briefed about his appearance in court tomorrow, apparently. I see. Yes, the trial is only a day away. Alright then, let's come back later. Yes. I really hope he's not answering any more questions with inappropriate textbook answers like yes I do. Trying to see what I can do now. I've examined, like, everything, so... Wait. Oh, I didn't check this. Look at all these balls of paper on the floor. There are notes scrawled all over them, in English. It looks like the waste paper basket is so full, they've just fallen out. I think Mr. Natsume must have been deeply immersed in his research, don't you? Or deeply adverse in tidying up his messes. I wouldn't like to speculate which is closer to the truth. Oh, now I can look over. Ah! Look, Mr. Naruto! Aha! There he is. Where did he appear from? He seems to be engrossed in the pages of an old book. I hope he won't mind if we disturb him. Hello, Mr. Sholmes? Ah, you two. Good day. Now, let me see. Where was it that we met? Oh, Mr. Sholmes. We were together on the SS Burya. Yes, of course. The Bureau. Now, let me see. What happened on that voyage? It was Kazuma Asogi. He died, tragically, but you were a great help to us. Ah, yes, but of course, the case of Mr. Asogi. It was the one with the snake, wasn't it? Oh. Well, you seem to remember something of it at least. What an honor to be remembered vaguely by the great detective Herlock Sholmes. This is Mr. Oh, no, my dear madam, hold your tongue. I pride myself on my superior powers of recollection. Your names are safely recorded in my brain attic. Mr. Naruto. And Mr. Susato. Try the other way around, Mr. Sholmes. I love the first round. I lose the first round. In truth, I had hoped to invite you both to my Baker Street suite on the day we arrived in London. But some Scotland Yardas ambushed me at the railway station and whisked me away to a crime scene. It was entirely trivial case, of course. I solved the matter in no more than 30 minutes. So they apprehended Soseki-san in that short of an amount of time? I'm afraid the pursuance of a new case has dulled my recollection of my past involvements a little. A little? It's a mistake to think that one's brain attic has elastic walls can distend to any extent. I do my best to forget useless facts, lest they should elbow out of the useful ones. Yes, those are my own words of inimitable wisdom, you know, from an adventure entitled A Study in Scarlet. Please, there's no need to quote yourself. I don't always remember my pearls of wisdom, but fortunately my associate pens them beautifully. He means Iris, I suppose. Mr. Sholmes, we have some extremely important questions to ask you about this trivial case you just mentioned. Goodness, what an earnest expression. My dear madam, I should be only too pleased, as the smoky room is an apt place to discuss the murky case. We know this to be the lodgings of a Japanese foreigner student by the name of Soseki Natsume. It seems that you assisted in his arrest, Mr. Sholmes, for the stabbing of a young woman outside on Briar Road. Natsume. Yes, I believe that was the name of rather along those lines. Mr. Natsume denies it. Was it really justifiable to arrest him on so little? I'm sorry, Mr. Sato, but I have not the slightest idea what you mean. What? I can't believe he was looking Susato-san squarely in the eyes while feigning ignorance. I assure you, I'm not merely feigning ignorance. It would appear as the pair of you are under some misapprehension. Oh, how? I assure you I have no recollection of accusing your stupid compatriot of the crime. But that doesn't make sense. The good detective of Scotland Yard made the following request of me, and I quote verbatim. We need you to ascertain the identity of the whereabouts of a man seen fleeing the crime scene. Ah, a man seen fleeing. There were a number of books scattered on the pavement of the scene. From the book plates, I was quickly able to determine the bookshop from which they had been purchased. On speaking with the proprietor, I was immediately led to this address. Elementary, when you say. I believe there will be a receipt around here somewhere of the establishment in question. So you don't think Mr. Natsume is the culprit, then? That I could not tell you. But it was aggravating my faculties, hence why I returned here. However, this place is such a trove of fascinating books, I found myself quite lost in bibliophilia. Do not be deceived into believing that I am a man of leisure. No, no, no. Oh dear. Ah, tell me. Have you encountered the landlord of these lodgings? Yes, Mr. Garadeb, a retired military man. It was the first time I've ever met a soldier from the Great British Institution, that is, the services. And it was the first time I've ever met a maid from the Great British Institution, that is, service. I didn't think it was that funny. I do apologize. As you may be well aware, many households in London employ a maid. Yes, I read as much in my Great Britain primer. And so, conversely, whether or not a household employs a maid has come to betoken of the social standing of those dwelling therein. Betoken their social standing? Sorry? Put simply, my dear fellow, those who employ at least a single maid are considered middle class. Those who do not are beneath that. In the upper class echelon of society, of course, households employ enough staff to constitute a large family. Goodness, how extraordinary. As you can appreciate, for those on the precarious boundaries between the middle and the lower class, being able to afford just one maid is of first importance. I had no idea. And it is for precisely that reason that I find great stimulation in the situation upstairs, specifically in the retired army veteran, Miss John Garadeb. Oh? Affable as he is, the fellow is hiding something. Whether or not it imposes on the circumstances of this case, I am yet unable to ascertain. I'm thoroughly lost on what he means to say. This room is thoroughly suffocating for my soul, my dear fellow. I assure you, any man would lose his dwell on this place if such of this will stab someone sooner or later. Mr. Natsume has stabbed no one. Ah, but sooner or later, as I said. I don't believe that's the issue here. About this dark little room, Mr. Sholmes. Why is there no longer a window? Do you have any idea? No window? Well, I mean, I can clearly see that there is a window of sorts. But it's been completely blocked with bricks. Ah, I see. The answer to that question is quite simple. Window tax. Window tax? What is that? Surely not a tax on windows. Precisely that. Oh my goodness. Until relatively recent, a tax was levied on households in this country by the number of their windows. Those of lesser means have inherited a sizable and costly family homes, perhaps rapidly close windows up. While the rich open windows here, there, everywhere. In an effort to curry favor with those in power by furnishing them with large sums of tax money. How awful and unjust, forcing people to live in a room devoid of light. Indeed, disease was rife as a result. So some 40 years ago, or thereabouts, the window tax was abolished. But its legacy remains, as you can see, in the squalid lodgings such as these, for example. I suppose Mr. Natsume's step-it for living here in London isn't very generous, perhaps. It would appear so. I've done a little digging, and I discovered that these lodgings were offered at an extraordinarily low price. Because the rooms are so awful, I should think. Apparently, Mr. Natsume only moved in here about 1 week ago. Yes, that's correct. However, I don't believe the low rent is explained by a shabby nature of the accommodation. Oh, 1 second. I just saw my light flicker, so I think something turned on. So I'm going to turn that off. That way the breaker doesn't blow. Okay. Back to it. Silly that is of little relevance here. I bet it not worthy of further attention. Are you sure? I'm curious now. Well, I believe I told you all I can now. Thank you, Mr. Sholmes. Ah, yes, Mr. Naruto. Was it not your intention to become a practitioner of law? You remembered that, did you? Will you perhaps be offering your services in this very matter, I wonder? To the occupant of this room, Mr. Natsume, was it? I'm not sure. Not sure? On what grounds? Well, I actually defended someone in court here only yesterday. Really? Well then, I congratulate you, sir, on an ambitious realized, and so promptly, too. The thing is, it's really made me question things. Am I right to believe in my clients? To trust their innocence? Yes, trust. Mr. Sholmes, Mr. Natsume didn't do it, did he? My dear fellow, I haven't the first idea. Oh, but I thought that's why you were here. Didn't you come back to investigate? Ah, yes, that was indeed my initial intention. But there are simply too many fascinating books here. I couldn't possibly ignore them. Oh, I see. Nevertheless, there are two facts I can state quite unequivocally. Okay. Quite unequivocal. Unequivocally. Nevertheless, there are two facts I can state quite unequivocally. I still fucked it up. The man who fled the scene of the crime 2 days ago was the Japanese occupant of this room, and there were the witnesses who swear to have seen the same man committing the crime. That is all I can say. Ah, and one more thing. Oh, what is it, Mr. Sholmes? I cannot say with any certainty whether or not of its relevance to this case, but I am quite sure that the retired army man who owns this property is hiding something. Mr. Geradev is. Mr. Sholmes said as much before, actually, didn't he? Anyway, at present, this is really all that is really all that plays on my mind in relation to this case. Mr. Naruto? As of yet, our investigation has uncovered nothing that could help establish Mr. Natsume's innocence. No, you're right. Perhaps it's time we probed a little deeper into that Mr. Garadev's secret. Just remember, I cannot be sure whether the landlord's secret will prove to be relevant or not. But I wish you every success, of course, Mr. Naruto. A busy man indeed. He's gone back to his book in the corner of the room. Ah, you pair again. Tell me, was the detective chap, I forget his name, still hard at work down there? Mr. Herlock Sholmes? Ah, yes, rings a vague bell. All that detective business isn't really my thing, I'm afraid. Well, Mr. Sholmes is in his element down there. Jolly good show. Another cup of tea, if you please, Joan. Mr. Lighty Man, thank you for the follow, dude. Ah! For the umpteenth time, woman, will you watch what you're bolly well doing? I shall be serving dinner shortly, sir. Ah, yes, of course. Frightfully rude for me. But I'm afraid I shall have to ask you to take your leave if you'd be so kind. Oh, yes, of course. We are deeply grateful for all of your assistance. Not at all, not at all. Don't get so much chance to talk with young foreigners like yourselves. It's been a pleasure. Best of luck and all that. Perhaps you could see yourselves out. According to Mr. Sholmes, Mr. Garadev is hiding something, and since no other avenues of investigation seem to open up to us at the moment, perhaps we should do some digging. Oh, I see you over there. Ah, what's he doing over there? Mr. Sholmes? Aha! We meet again, my dear fellows. Good gracious, when did you sneak in here? Herlock Sholmes, sir, at your service. Whatever you're doing by the window. I'm given to the watching of the evening sky sunsets, madam. Yet sadly, cheerful as the room downstairs undoubtedly is, it lacks an aperture for such an observation. Well, keeping an eye to one's window at dusk is the prudent thing to do in London, I'm gathering. Ah, and one other thing, Mr. Naruto. Oh, me? I thought perhaps he might be in the need of a certain great detective's great mind. Wait, he's not talking about, is he? I didn't expect to be going through that again so soon. Do you mean Mr. Sholmes? There is a mighty secret in this modest room. My eyes are even the most trivial of trifles. I take it you're prepared, Mr. Naruto? I think so. There's just enough for one of my greatly admired great deductions. Let us conclude the matter before dark. Mr. Garadeb, though it would seem you are a military man of considerably distinguished service, your standing as a landlord is most certainly not what one might call first-rate. I'm afraid, sir, that is all too clear to me. There are two conclusions I've been able to draw by the careful observation of your living arrangements. I beg your pardon. The first is that even as we speak, you are concealing the presence of a ferocious beast in your care. And the second is that the result of the beast's violent rampage, you have lost something very dear to you. Mr. Naruto, look! The old man's broken out in a cold sweat. Unbelievably, it seems Mr. Sholmes' conclusions are both spot on. How could you possibly... How could I possibly know, you mean to inquire? The answer couldn't be simpler, sir. For in the dense jungle of logic and reasoning, I am the king of beasts. And I know only too well that wild beasts are not easily tamed. So, Shall we begin? Once again, Sherlock Holmes is proud to present Logic and Reasoning Spectacular! It certainly shouldn't take a great detective to see. There's a fearsome beast in here on the rampage, late within these four walls. Thus, we are faced with a question: what form might the beast take? Ah! For a man of military breeding, your eyes are uncommonly candid. Your furtive glance, Mr. Gardez, leads us directly to the answer. The true nature of the beast that run rampant here is revealed to be that of that lion statue. Yes, though an army man, you appear unimposing at best. But the fact that, a fact that has fueled your admiration for the mighty lion, the king of beasts. What is this piffle, I ask you? In the end, your admiration became so great, in fact, that you had a living, breathing specimen shipped from India, which you tried to keep in this very house. What? Yet living with such a wild beast proved more difficult than you had imagined. Chilling traces of wild rampage still very much in evidence. Well... Yet might as well look around. The beast in question fails to present itself. Where could this angry creature have disappeared to? Madam? Me? I pray you do not consider me unchivalrous, but it is plain to me that one glance in your direction. It is. Your dress pocket gives us handsome clues as to the beast's current whereabouts. For protruding it is a handbill advertising a circus show. Yes, you sought to dispose of this terrifying lion, Mr. Yaredeb, at Batty's circus. A traveling show currently sojourning in a nearby park. I have observed the tents. You sold the savage lion, sir, to the circus troupe. I most certainly did not. I believe I have made my point. The fearsome beast which ran amok in this room was an Indian lion. And a simple visit to the circus now will reveal the lions prancing jubilantly through the ring of fire. Now, Mr. Gaudet, is it plainly clear that you still have deep feelings for this formidable beast? Indeed, in that blithe pose, the distress this loss has caused you is veritably tangible. Your head weighs heavy on your shoulders, the pain you feel being revealed by that supporting arm. Amid fits of tear, you let your beloved beast go. The strain of losing someone so dear to you is clearly visible in your visage. Nonsense, man, I simply... But what, we must now ask ourselves, is the true cause of this pain? And we normally follow the direction of your gaze to find the answer. Yes, it's this pile of bills that has given rise to the pain you suffer. For every envelope contains another demand for payment. For cartloads of meat, potatoes, wheat, and tea. Indeed, feeding your beloved has a devastating impact on the financial circumstances of your household. And so you've had no choice but to let it go. Yes, well... Now, in a final fit of rage, the ferocious beast carried out one last unimaginable attack. Unimaginable? In the aftermath, which can clearly be seen by observing the carpet over there, a very expensive woolen carpet, and if I'm not mistaken... Oh dearie me. What could have caused such destructive outburst? This time, madam, I'm afraid that it's you who has inadvertently revealed the truth to me. Your wandering eyes have settled upon the answer very neatly indeed. Ah yes, to explain the desired state of the carpet, we need only look at the Tower of Cakes. There is no creature more dangerous on this earth than the beast with an insatiable appetite. Was it or was it not said by one certain noble woman, if they have no bread, let them eat cake? Food is at the heart of all tragedy, in fact. Whatever do you mean? Having tired of the taste of cake, the beast began to stalk its next prey. I am sure I need not spell out the nature of his final act of destruction carried out by the beast. There is only one logical conclusion. Worked into a frenzy by hunger, the lion attacked and ate the carpet. The teeth marks on the carpet are a perfect match with those of the lion I once saw in India. Thus concludes Sherlock Holmes' great deduction of this beastly puzzle. Ah! What is the matter with you, Joan? You're pouring scalding hot tea all over me. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Garadeb. I'm afraid I didn't notice. My deductions can be startlingly sharp. It stands to reason that your cup runneth over. Indeed, my revelations can make people spill tears at times too. Oh. Mr. Sholmes? Sorry to butt in again, but can I make an observation? Why, certainly, Mr. Naruhodo. What is it again? Well, your deduction just now, do you really think a lion could fit inside a room of this size? Indeed, it is the only explanation for the facts. The terrifying truth is all too often lies beyond the realms of common sense. But wouldn't it be an idea to consider that what lies inside the realm of common sense as well? But if an uncaged lion had run amok in this very room, surely Mr. Garadeb and his maid would have been hurt, or worse. Ah, that's where you are stuck. No doubt the former military man had his own against the beast using that large cannon. I thought you said they sold the lion to the circus. And what about the food? Meat and potatoes are one thing. But I don't believe I have ever heard of a lion that drinks tea. Ah, my dear Mrs. Otto, it occurs to me with some regularity that irrespective of race and breeding, whenever anyone lands in Great British soil, they are infused with a highly inappropriate taste for afternoon tea. Oh, what a glorious notion. Well then, Mr. Naruhodo, it's your turn to shine again. I had a feeling that was coming. A slight message. That's all Mr. Sholmes' deductions need. You can do it. Excellent. I've been waiting for my trusty partner in the deduction to step forward, Mr. Naruhodo. We don't even know yet whether or not this is going to help with Mr. Natsume's case. Still, uncovering the truth is always worthwhile, whatever the motivation. At least, that's what I want to believe. Let us start again. From the beginning of Sherlock Holmes, Logic and Reasoning Spectacular. It certainly shouldn't take a great detective to see that a fearsome beast has been on the rampage of late within these four walls. Thus, we are faced with the question, what form might the beast take? Ah, for a man with military breeding, your eyes are uncommonly candid. Your furtive glance, Mr. Garadeb, leads us directly to the answer. The true nature of the beast that has run rampant here is revealed by that lion statue. I really didn't see the lion thing coming. No, but if you observe Mr. Garadeb's reaction, it rather seems as though the beast did indeed run amok here in this room. Yes, something with a very fierce nature. But it couldn't have been a lion transported from India. So what was it then? We must follow Mr. Garadeb's gaze. That will lead us to the true answer. Ooh.
Take that!
Alright, I messed that up. Ugh. Should have examined it first, but it didn't give me it didn't have an option on the bottom for me to examine, so that was just me being stupid. Alright. What's this photograph? It appears to be from Mr. Garadev's wedding. He looks very happy, doesn't he? He does, but you can't make out his bride. No, how unfortunate. Something must have struck the glass directly over the woman's face. I wonder what happened. Probably best not to delve too deeply there.
Take that!
The true nature of the beast that has run rampant here is revealed by that newlywed bride. Precisely, Miss Naruto. No other explanation could possibly fit. Yes, this framed print pictures your wife, Mr. Garadeb. And while we lament the fact that her face is obscured, we can still make out her mighty arms and note considerable horsepower they may contain. Oh, indeed, surely any woman of such powerful constitution would be honored to be described as a beast. Honored might be stretching it a point. Too late. The fact remains that the beast, which so clearly savaged this room, was your wife, Mr. Garadeb. The chilling traces of the wild rampage are still very much in evidence. Well, yet as we look around, the beast in question fails to present itself. Where could this angry creature have disappeared to? Madam? Me? I pray you do not consider me unchivalrous, but it's plain to me that one glance in your direction. It is. Your dress pocket gives us a handsome clues as to the beast's current whereabouts. The poor, fragile, defenseless woman is beside herself. Well, I don't know about fragile. Oh dear. Anyway, Mr. Sholmes is quite right. There's no sign of Mrs. Garadeb anywhere, but it seems there may be clues as to her whereabouts. The clue this maid is trying to hide. I wonder where Mr. Garadeb's wife could be.
Take that!
Your wedding ring gives us a handsome clue as to the beast's current whereabouts. Ah! Indeed it does. That flowery band gleaming on your finger gives you away. For it is identical to the one shown in the hand of Mr. Garadeb's bride in this photographic print. In other words, you are no ordinary household maid. No. You are Mr. Garadeb's lucky bride. You are Mrs. Garadeb herself. Oh my word! Well, jolly fine detecting, sir. And you rightly surmise this is my wife, yes, my Joan. Rather let herself go, I might say, ah! It would appear that you don't live in the most comfortable circumstances. After all, you are a retired army man, yet here you are in the business of renting out rooms. I would assume, therefore, you have insufficient means to employ a maid. Would that be correct? It's not right, I tell you. I was 2nd Lieutenant of the 3rd Regiment, a man of his pride, don't you know? By golly, it's a sorry thing when a chap can't even afford to have a single maid in his employ. Yes, here in London, one is rather judged. A household cannot be considered worthy of society if it employs no staff at all. Though, in my considered opinion, such concerns about appearances are folly. You mean Mr. Garadeb has his wife work as his maid? Precisely. Am I right, Mr. Garadeb? Only in company, obviously, but listen here. This must remain secret. Tip-top secret, please. Now, Mr. Gaudin, it is plainly clear that you still have deep feelings for this formidable beast. Indeed, in that blithe pose, the distress its loss has caused you is veritable tangible. Your head weighs heavy on your shoulders. The pain you feel is being revealed by that supporting arm. Mr. Sholmes is quite something. He's still calling Mr. Garadeb's wife a beast. Yes, as a woman, I feel rather uncomfortable. But Mrs. Garadeb is standing beside her husband as we speak. In other words, he hasn't lost his beloved at all, has he? Oh, how true. So perhaps that supporting arm that seems to be propping up on his head has some other significance then. According to Mr. Sholmes, Mr. Garadeb's pain is tangible, though. What could that pose of his really signify?
Take that!
Your head weighs heavy on your shoulders. You feel being revealed by that slapped cheek. And of course, the deliverer of the impressive mark on your cheek that refuses to fade was you, Madame Joan Garadeb. Well, yes. You have been desperate to hide the slap mark on your cheek, sir. How the blazes? How did you work that out, man? Nothing escapes the notice of one trained in the art of observation, my dear fellow. That's why you haven't looked directly at us even once. To keep your other side from view. Well, Now, let us proceed to the next conundrum. Why were you subjected to such a violent slap? In other words, we must ask ourselves what caused Madame Garadeb to fly into a rage. And we need only follow the direction of your gaze to find the answer. Yes, this pile of bills has given rise to the pain you suffer. Didn't Mr. Sholmes say that the bills were all for lion fodder? Yes, but we've established that the lion never existed, which can only mean that the thing responsible for gobbling up all that food was Mr. Garadeb's wife. Mr. Naruto, she's a person, not a thing. Yes, well, she's also a person who gave her husband a mighty slap around the face. One so hard that it left a perfect hand mark, in fact. Yes, why would a woman want to hit her husband with such force, I wonder? I'd love to know the answer to that question. Ah, someone must be reading this book at the moment. There's a bookmark here, look. Mr. Garadeb is clearly an avid reader. Oh, wait a minute. I don't think this is a bookmark. Oh no, so it isn't. It's a note written in a woman's hand. Oh, James, I love you. Yours, Mary. And look at the signature here. Lip marks made with lipstick. Oh, what a passionate and romantic gesture. Don't get any ideas, Susato-san. Oh dear, I'm sorry. So this book is actually a love note, then.
Take that!
Yes, this is a love note that has given rise to the pain you suffer. Oh, James, I love you. Yours, Mary. Passionate indeed. Perhaps the sender of this note, a certain Miss Mary, is the fly in the ointment here. Ah! But I don't know the Bolly woman. You don't know her. That note wasn't written to me. It was just in the book. I don't know how it got there. It was just there, you say? That's right. That's what I've been saying. Ah! A likely story. Now listen here, Joan, old thing. I explained at the time. I bought this book at the second-hand place, and that note must have already been in there. So the previous owner of the book was using the note as a bookmark, you mean? That's right. That's what I've been saying. Ah! A likely story. For heaven's sake, woman, look at that name. It's written to James. My name, in case you'd forgotten, is John. Ah! A likely story. Are you questioning my name now? So there we have it. Arouse the suspicions of the female heart and you unleash a beast with most ferocious bite. Now, in a final fit of rage, the ferocious beast carried out one last unimaginable attack. Unimaginable? The aftermath, which can be clearly seen by the observing carpet over here. The very expensive woolen carpet, and if I'm not mistaken. Oh dearie me. What could have caused such a destructive outburst? Ah! This time, madam, I'm afraid it is you who has inadvertently revealed the truth to me. Your wandering eyes have settled upon the answer very neatly indeed. Yes, to explain the dire situation of the carpet, we need only look at the Tower of Cakes. But surely Mrs. Garrideb didn't eat the carpet? No, of course not. There doesn't seem to be any doubt that the state of disarray in this room is in a result of her wild temper. No, that's true. So this is the last part of Mr. Sholmes' deduction that we need to fix. We need only follow Mrs. Garrideb's gaze. That will tell us the real answer. Alright, let's see what we can see. Yes.
Take that!
Yes, to explain the dire situation of the carpet, we need only look at the candlestick. Most illuminating, my dear fellow. And of course, the only possible way out of this logical labyrinth. Yes, the remnants of the ferocious attack in which the carpet was devoured are clearly visible. Indeed they are. Indeed they are. The scorch marks at the edge clearly gives the truth away. Scorch marks. It would appear that this room was the scene of a little marital altercation. Mrs. Garrideb, my dear arm muscles left an impression not only on her husband's face, but in the end of the room, the force of her strike caused the candle to fall from the holder. And in seconds, the carpet was alight, and the whole corner of the room in flames. Yes, but the most ferocious beast in the world is neither the violent lion nor a vengeful woman, but fire. And in this room, that ferocious beast bared its claws and ran amok. Eloquently put, my dear fellow. So you see, there's but one conclusion here. After the sparks of the marital discord flew, the room was the scene of a fire. Mr. Sholmes, sir. I salute you! Elementary. It's these dashed long winter nights, you know, nothing to do but read in front of the fire. Luckily, there's a jolly good second-hand bookshop just around the corner. My old novels there. And in the pages of one particular novel, you'll discover some rather illicit material. For which your wife admonished you harshly, it seems. I don't know about admonished. Demolished might be a rather closer to the mark. And Beast is most certainly an adept. Ah! Here we go again. And the carpet? Was that destroyed by a fire when a candle fell to the floor? Afraid to say it was. Happened in the blink of an eye, you know. The whole place filled with smoke. Couldn't see a bally thing. I was caught between old Stick's rage and the raging flames. You paint a torrid picture, sir. one that would have been most entertaining. That's sympathy for you. Didn't take long for the fire to spread, of course. The bally furniture started going up as well. We've had to hide that mess behind that screen for the time being. Over here, Mr. Garadeb. Well, you have nothing more to hide now, so if you'll allow me. Had all my favorite old novels in that case, but as soon as the fire got hold of them, that was it. Whoosh, up in smoke. Gosh. Then the wife started hurling things at me. What a terrible sight it must have been. There was I, back up against the window under heavy enemy fire. Incendiary books incoming 10 to the dozen. Worst of it is, I lost my favorite, a book called The Lion's Pride. The Lion's Pride? Ah yes, your notorious love of big cats comes through again. I assure you the title did not influence my choice of the slightest. So the poor man really did lose something dear to him as a result of the ferocious beast's rampage. Mr. Sholm's deductions turned out to be correct once again. It can only be described as a great British wonder. I tell you, it was total carnage. Flames everywhere and the old stick in full fettle. Out of interest, what time of day was that? Not sure I can remember. It was 2 days ago now. Let's see. Around 5 o'clock, I think. So at exactly the same time as a terrifying incident was unfolding outside your window on the street below. Even more terrifying on the inside, I can assure you. The whole of Blighty could have been flattened outside my window at that moment, and I wouldn't have noticed a dashed thing. Oh, really? Mr. Sholmes? Yes, Mr. Naruhodo. What can I do for you? Well, I think we've got to the bottom of Mr. Garadeb's situation now, but what does it have to do with Mr. Natsume's circumstances? I can't help you there, I'm afraid. What? My dear fellow, if you recall, I did say as much from the outset. I warned you that although I knew the retired armored man had been hiding something, I could not be sure whether his secret would prove to be of relevance to you or not. I just knew you were going to say that. Now, Mr. Naruhodo, you mustn't lose heart. Bear in mind that all things fall into one of only two categories, those relevant to the case and those are not. That makes no sense to me. Well, no matter. It is of far greater importance that you make up your mind now. Sorry. Visiting hours of the present will soon be over. Oh no, is it that time already? If we are to accept Mr. Natsume's case, we have official paperwork to attend to. So that's it. No more time to think. Perhaps you'd like to betake yourselves to bidding us farewell now? I must prepare supper for Mr. Garadeb. Oh yes, I'm so sorry. Thank you both very much for your time. Soseki-san will be waiting for us, and I'm going to have to give him an answer. It's time, Mr. Naruhodo. We must hurry back to the prison. Yes, I know. Let's hail a Oh. What's the matter? It looks like something's going on over there in front of the Garadeb's house. I know thee not, old man. Fall to thy prayers. Who are you calling an old man, you rum-looking miminy-piminy? There are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than are dreamt in your philosophy. Who is this Horatio fellow, eh? What are you on about? Excuse me. Eh? What the... Who are you now? I'm so sorry. I just looked as though there might be some problem here. And my associate here, Mr. Ryunosuke Naruhodo, is a lawyer, you see.
Eh? A lawyer? What?
If I could be of any assistance, I'd be happy to help. I'm from Japan, but I've studied English law.
Fine, I'll be on my way for today, but you mark my words. This ain't over yet.
Get thee to a nunnery.
Do I look like a bloomin' nun to you?
I do hope you're not injured. Oh, fair Eastern maiden, thou art so gentle. Thank you. What was that all about? There are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than are dreamt in your philosophy. I'm not Horatio either. Forgive the inquiry, sir, but are you a lodger here in the Garadeb residence? Oh, fair Eastern maiden, thou art so right. Yes, I do dwell in this humble abode. Mr. Garadeb mentioned that he had another lodger, didn't he? This must be the man. Do you happen to know the other lodger who lives on the first floor? Ah, yes, a gentleman named Natsume. Oh, more worthy a polemist in battle of words neither could be. Sorry? Battle, did you say? Who is the stronger, Hamlet or Macbeth? Mr. Natsume are sparred long into the night. I see. I don't fully understand, but it seems Mr. Natsume and this gentleman are acquaintances, at least. So fair maiden, so good gentleman. I can tarry here no longer. Fare thee well. I didn't really understand him, but I think he's returned to his room. It seems he's unaware of what's happened to Mr. Natsume, so he can't really help us. With Sosuke-san and that man as lodgers, the Garadeb house is certainly full of eccentrics. Anyway, I'll go find a carriage. Yes, I'm sure Mr. Natsume is eagerly awaiting our return. Let's hope we can get to the prison before visiting hours are over. February 19th, 6:31 p.m., local prison, cell 9.
Oh, it's you. You're here, you came. Locum student Mr. Naruhodo Esquire. I can't believe you came back. I'm so touched.
We are sorry to have kept you waiting, Mr. Natsume.
Oh, no, think nothing of it. Relax. If I were a cat, I would purr with pleasure at the company of such fine compatriots. Noble, Nutri, never failing Nipponese.
Oh, now, let's not get carried away. Oh, I quite agree. There's nothing more reassuring than the familiarity of one's native land. On the other hand, it is through friendship transcending international borders that one truly appreciates the facts. Such is my belief, at least.
It's you! The miserable, rotten spy, Herlock Sholmes!
Mr. Sholmes, what are you doing here? I have no intention of doing anything per se. Save observing, of course. Whatever do you mean, Mr. Sholmes? Well, having encountered some curious reading material in that gloomed room, having unmasked the secret identity of the eccentric pair, I decided I should drop in on my way home to see how my divested friend is faring. Gloomful room? At least your accommodation here offers a window, my dear fellow. In that sense, it is a superior option. Anyway, I must commend you on your taste in books. My day has been a delight. Cost me not a penny.
You! How dare you! Herlock Sholmes!
I've had it. I'm through. I'm at the end of my rope. I should never have come to Great Britain. It was a terrible mistake. Haunted by spirits in those accursed lodgings. No doubt my luck will be cursed tomorrow in tomorrow's trial as well.
My whole life is bedamned!
What are you thinking, Mr. Naruhodo? He mentioned that once before, didn't he? That his lodgings were cursed, I mean. And there's so much truth in Mr. Mustache's words. What?
Curse is a wholly appropriate description, I would say. For the man's lodgings, and indeed for tomorrow's trial. What's that supposed to mean? Mr. Natsume, what do you mean by saying what you said just now? About the trial tomorrow being cursed? Oh, no, why? Why are you looking so grieved? You're making me nervous. I was just getting carried away, that's all. I didn't mean anything by it. Oh, I see. That really agitated him. You don't mean this trial really is cursed somehow? Are you referring to the prosecutor, the Reaper of the Bailey? The Reaper? Oh no, what do you mean? Please, tell me. Summarize it sufficiently in 16 salient words. No defendant has ever survived a trial in which the Reaper stands for the prosecution. Ever. Oh my goodness, can it really be true? That was 16 words exactly! Yesterday, Mr. Naruhodo successfully defended someone against the Reaper, but then, after the trial was over, the defendant passed away in unusual circumstances. Mr. McGill did. What? Ah, I am impressed, Mr. Sato. You have an eye for detail. Actually, the Lord Chief Justice told us. Mr. Sholmes, surely it can't be that having failed to have the accused convicted, Lord Van Zeeks killed the man himself. Oh no, he couldn't have, surely. Ah! You have some wonderful notions. Sorry? The man isn't a mass murderer, he's a court prosecutor, my dear fellow. Oh, yes. Why, of course he is. Ah, of course he is! Then why are you trying to scare me? It could be said, however, that the real truth about the man is even more terrifying than your hypothesis. What on earth do you mean by that? Van Zeeks is quite an exceptional man. However, in London courts of law, exceptional does not equate to winning every case without exception. Ah, that's good. Sosuke-san looks like he's gonna cry tears of joy. As you are no doubt aware, in the British criminal trial, there is both a judge and jury. The judge officiates based on the letter of the law, whilst his jury offers public opinion and common sense. It is an excellent system whereby the defendant's guilt is considered from several points of view. However, public opinion in particular is somewhat easily manipulated. Right. Criminals and corrupt lawyers, for that matter, can use that to their advantage. And by any means at their disposal, contriving evidence, calling imposters as witnesses, and so on. By such underhand means, those who would want to are able to sway the jury. Which means that even in the light of irrefutable evidence, the prosecution can fail. But it means the wrong verdict can be passed. And sadly, yes, from time to time, my dear madam, it is simply the reality of the situation. And that's all right. However, those indicted by Lord Van Zeeks cannot escape justice. Their fate is sealed. Oh my. Though the agitation may seem to leave the courtroom with their freedom, within months, they all disappear. It is most striking. Disappear, but how? Ah, by all manner of misfortune, sir. Perhaps they are trampled under a passing carriage. Perhaps they fall into the Thames and drowned. Perhaps they are suddenly overcome by a raging fever. Or perhaps attacked by a highwayman. Oh, no. All examples of the realities of events here in London, I'm afraid, Mr. Naruhodo. Huh, I knew it. I'm a dead dodo done for, doomed! When you said accursed lodgings before, you were referring to your room at Mr. Garrideb's house, I assume. Do you mean to say you believe the place is cursed? It's been a year now since I came to Great Britain, but I'd only been in London a week before I started to notice strange feelings in myself. That didn't take long then. Everywhere I looked, there was foreign faces staring at me, laughing behind my back. And I'm sure people were talking about me. I started to become nervous about going outside. They were always staring at me, all the time from dawn to dusk. So I shut myself away in my room, but even that didn't help. The fear wouldn't go away.
You must have been very lonely, having been away from your homeland for such a long time.
I've had to move a number of times, most recently to a room on Briar Road a week ago now.
Yes, why did you choose there? It seems a little inconvenient.
The rent is cheap, and I have so little money, it appealed to me straight away. Of course, I asked why it was so affordable. The landlord just simpered and said, "The room is cursed." Oops. He quickly tried to cover his mistake, but it was too late, so I told him. If you have something to say, then say it. But if not, don't mention it in the first place.
Yes, well said.
But it was true. It was all true.
You mean the room really is cursed then?
Ever since I moved into that windowless hellhole, my sleep has been plagued with nightmares. I awake feeling as though I had been choked to death. And in my waking hours, people are stabbed in front of me and I walk down the street. I'm branded a killer, thrown in prison. Nobody wants to know me. I'm surrounded by scary, sinister spirits. If only there was someone, just one person on my side. Can no one find it in his or her heart to believe in me? Really, no one at all?
To believe. Yes, to believe.
Mr. Sholmes? Ah, me, Mr. Naruhodo. Hey, what can I do for you?
It's about the case on the SS Buria, if you recall.
The Buria? The Buria? Ah, that case. The one with the snake.
Well, yes. At that time, I was the suspect, but you believed in me and listened to my side of the story. And you helped us to investigate.
I did I?
Interesting. What I want to know is why. Why did you believe me?
I see, yes, you mean... because you are a grimly dressed, shady Eastern fellow found in the victim of a locked room?
Well, if you like, yes.
I'm a little surprised that answer requires an explanation, my dear fellow. It's quite simple, really. You said I didn't do it.
But I could have been lying. Surely you must have had your doubts. You must have suspected me a little.
I think perhaps you have misunderstood. I neither recall believing in you, nor that which you are telling me.
What?
You see, the only things I believe in are those I choose to believe in.
What? What do you mean, Mr. Sholmes?
I make up my own mind about what it is to be believed and what is not. Or I should say, or if I should like to believe in something, I do. The circumstances can hang as far as I'm concerned.
But I could have betrayed your trust.
In that case, I should have made an elementary error of judgment. Nothing more. Betrayal of trust is an overused excuse, in my opinion.
Meaning...
whether or not one should trust another is, in the final analysis, down to oneself. It is a matter of whether or not one can trust oneself.
Yes, he's right.
He's right, locum student Mr. Naruhodo Esquire.
Whether or not I can believe myself.
A defense lawyer is only as good as his faith in his client. And that comes down to how much faith he has in himself.
You were so right, Kazuma.
Well, my dear fellows, it is time we are leaving, I believe.
Already?
Visiting hours are over. The guard will be here shortly to escort us out. There's a restaurant near here that serves excellent trout. Would you care to join me?
Oh dear. There's never enough time, is there?
Mr. Natsume? If you'd like, in the trial tomorrow, I'd be happy to represent you. Locum student Mr. Naruhodo Esquire. As I said, I only experienced the British courtroom for the first time yesterday, and although the man I was representing was found not guilty, I lost sight of something crucial. Something crucial. What to believe in, the defendant, justice, or the truth, how to believe even. But I think I finally worked it out. I've decided I must believe in myself above all else, to trust my instincts. Yes, Mr. Naruhodo. And my instincts are telling me that you, Mr. Natsume, are innocent of this crime, and that's imperative that we prove that in court. Locum student Mr. Naruhodo Esquire. I will fight for your innocence until the bitter end with every weapon available to me, so I hope you'll permit me to represent you tomorrow. As I said when we first met, I'd like to entrust my fate to someone who will listen to me in my native tongue. Of course, Mr. Natsume. It would be fair to say, Mr. Naruto, that your mind was in many ways made up from the outset. You merely needed the events of today to fully realize it. Yes, I think you're right about that. It's been a roundabout journey, but I got there in the end. Mr. Sato? Yes? Would you be willing to stand by my side tomorrow and help me in court? Absolutely. As I said this morning, you may consider me your personal judicial assistant. The shocking events of yesterday's trial still weigh heavily on my mind, but it's time to stop looking backwards. Kazuma believed in me, and Mr. Sholmes believes in me now too. So it's time that I learn to believe in myself. Soseki-san has no one. He's all alone, so it's my job to help him, to fight his corner. Tomorrow, in the courtroom, with all the strength I can muster. Oh boy, that was a long investigation. Holy crap. Ugh. Honestly, I think that's probably going to be all for today. And we're going to pick up on the trial tomorrow. So, I hope you guys look forward to that. So, that's going to be it for the stream. For those of you watching on Twitch, check out my YouTube. Those of you on YouTube, check out my Twitch. Be sure to follow me on my Twitch and subscribe to my channel on my YouTube. It really does help me out. Well, then again, I'm not going to force you to subscribe. If you actually enjoy what I do, then why not? I could go somewhere. Who knows? Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Till then, see you then.